this is a photograph of me as a young girl. I am from Mexico, from Puebla. That's in the state of Puebla. That's a little bit to the east from Mexico City. And I'm living now at the west of Mexico City. I love research, technology, learning, teaching, and having good friends and good conversations. My family, my home family is, well, I have two brothers and a sister. My mother has passed away, and I have a family of my own where my young Mikel is, even if I'm a scientist and he's in love with music, so I'm learning about music and I am enjoying everything about it. And this is a recent photo. Okay, well, I want to know a little bit about you, so I would like to ask you to take a picture and answer this Menti that tells me about what you're looking forward in this talk. Please, could you please answer it? And I would like for you to answer the two questions. Let's give a couple of minutes, please. So there's just 2 slides of this Menti. And let me change myself to the Menti. Okay. Okay, I think I mixed up. I have to share the appropriate. Let me share all my screen so I don't have to change. Okay. So the first question was, what are you hoping to achieve, to get out of this talk? And I think we're about 50-50, learning something new and open to a new experience, okay? And I really wanted to know if everybody was aware of what is intellectual property, so I wouldn't be redundant in what I'm saying. Okay, so could you please answer the second one? Because I wanna go to know about, what do you think when you hear the word property, please? I think some people are still in the first one, but could you please help me with the second one? Okay. Owner. Just a couple. Okay. Private. Capitalism. Okay. Legal process. Creative rights. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to share in the WhatsApp group the clouds, but for the moment, this gives me a general idea of what you know and what you are thinking about this topic. Okay, so let's continue. And yes, the outline will be giving general descriptions of intellectual property, something about copyrights, industrial property, and additional insights. So when I'm referring to intellectual property, if we go to what the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, or in Spanish, OMPI, well, it refers to creations, and it has to do with inventions, but also literature and artistic works. So we are asking ourselves about creativity that we have in our academic trajectory. So that's why I wanted to bring it in here. So we have to think about how creativity is going to be also coupled to property. And so we can think that in different academic fields, we can create, and we create ideas, we create procedures, we create formulas, theories, methods. And all of this is intellectual property. So the idea is to separate how can we register, or how can we protect this kind of property and information, and not only as something that is physical and tangible, but can be intangible. So in any field that you participate, there's going to be a creative process, and there's going to be knowledge and applications. And what is more associated to this kind of property is the technological aspects. But I want to convince you that not only from technology it is. And we might think that it's important because of what is now called the knowledge economy, that comes from the 60s and is more emphasized in the 90s. But I want to add additional things, that if we can protect our knowledge, we can guide how to use it, how to apply it, and hence contribute towards a society that it would be more equity, diverse, and inclusive. So Whipple thinks about this intellectual property as literature, as I told you, inventions, design, symbols, names, and images used in commerce. And this commerce can be more thinking about a trade, about trading things, about trading knowledge. Don't think in all times in terms of money. I would like to also include this kind of aspects. Okay, so we have two big branches, or great branches of intellectual property: copyrights, where we are more familiar with, and industrial property, and that has to do with patents and trademarks and geographical indications. And in the copyrights, well, it's our way of saying that we have created something and that we have also rights, legal rights, not only moral rights, but legal rights over this literature or artistic work. We can think about music and how composers are protecting their music and their lyrics. And from other areas, well, we have journals, and we have also the international standard serial number, the ISSN, that appears in journals that have to be registered even for legal deposits. We can think that when we collaborate in academic affairs, we can create manuals or books or chapters, and even your thesis could be written or included in a repository. And in this case, there will be a legal document that allows the institution to upload it. We have to sign a letter of agreement when we submit this kind of information. There's also the case of books, where the books have a special number, a 13-digit number, that's the International Standard Book number. And well, not all the books are going to be bought. Some can be downloaded if the organization allows it. And now we have different kinds of open sources that are legal, but have also a systematic and a very rigid procedure to achieve this kind of books. I want to tell you that in the case of the previous book, you can download it with this QR. I can share it afterwards, but it means that you can collaborate between universities, but also organizations like the Red de Ciencia, Tecnología y Género, but also editorial houses. So this is increasing visibility, and it's protecting what we are constructing. We can have also ISBN numbers for printing documents or for electronic documents, and that's an issue that's nowadays is very, very important. We can have copyrights of photographs. So if you have an experiment or you're doing something with a community, you can have photographs and also submit it to registration. And that's another case where all areas can contribute to copyrights and to intellectual property. But now let's go to the other part, industrial properties. And in this case, well, it's important because it gives us an exclusiveness. It has to do with the territorial rights, And temporal rights. I mean, you have to register in where you're going to try to transfer this knowledge, or where if you're going to commercialize with it, you have to have these rights. It's like a birth certificate for a person, but in the case of a patent or a utility model or a design. And let me just make a little bit pauses in each cases, just to give you an overlook. Industrial property that has to do with patents or utility models or industrial designs have to show novelty, inventive step, and industrial applicability. So it has to be meant to be used. Maybe you don't get to commercialize it, but you have a step towards this commercialization. You cannot submit scientific theories or mathematical methods or animal or plant varieties because of the moral issues, but you can submit processes or products. And this allows to distribute for commercial purposes, but also to transfer the knowledge. When we are at the universities and we want to transfer to an enterprise, then it's important to have this information or this legal right. And it also can protect intangible values. We're talking in the morning about what some communities lose about their knowledge. If we are capable of helping these communities to register maybe some designs, special designs of textiles or colors or processes to obtain a certain color, well, this is a way to also protect all communities. In my case, I have an industrial design register in Mexico, and I want to emphasize that the students that collaborated appear as designers or inventors on the same scale as a professor at the university. But the legal, or in this case, the legal owner is the university. So this can happen, but you can also register as a private inventor. The other thing is that if we attach equity, diversity, and inclusive in our framework, then we can solve interesting and important problems. And not only at adult age, but also youngsters have done it. And we have, for instance, Lily Bourne, who has a grandparent that has Parkinson's. She designed a cup so that she could take her liquid, her beverage, without spilling it. Or Xochitl from Chiapas, who made and developed a warm water heater for her community. So let's not think that it's only for a certain age. We can also participate at different ages. Another way of gathering our intellectual property or our industrial property is branding by trademarks. And this can help us by branding a product or a service, and also a commercial announcement, or name an enterprise. And this happens, well, there are, you all know global brands maybe, and they're very important, and they have a representation in the market. And if we look at the brand, it can also increase the value along the years. So we can have also a brand for what we're doing, for dissemination of research, or for giving specific consultancy services. Even the institutions like the BUAP, like the Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla, has now in its logo a little R, and that means that it's a trademark. So it's not, you can register also institutions. In my case, I have collaborated in registering a trademark for the university that's called Innovación Optimizada y 4.0, and it gathers some of the elements that Lilia was telling you about, what I do in engineering science, material science, and thermodynamics. That's also my topics. But it's a way that the new generations can they can brand a service or a product as a first step towards entrepreneurship, and also to have their own professional trajectories. We have to understand. We have to look at what is called the NICE classification that tells you what you're going to brand and how are you going to use the brands. For instance, the ones that I've registered go under the class 42 because it's theoretical and practical aspects of services, of scientific and technological services. But you can look at this slide and see that there's different classes that go for financial research, marketing research, education, and there's a whole kind of a very large kind of brands that you can choose, of classifications that you can choose for your brand depending on your area, and you can protect your service and have also like a presentation card for when you look for relationships or sponsorships. The NICE classification has some exclusions about auditing or installation, maintenance, or repair. I mean, the class 42 doesn't include everything, so you can look at what is better for your case. And when protecting this designation of origin, like food or wine or artisanry, there's also industrial property involved. And that's another way of protecting or collaborating with communities to achieve this kind of registration. For instance, tequila is a designated geographical indicator in Mexico, or Talavera, that's from my hometown, Puebla, where we can collaborate in protecting our ancestors' knowledge on different topics. So this is why I'm trying to broaden the idea for different areas and disciplines. And coming to the theoretical framework, because we're in this workshop about diversity and inclusion, well, I want to stand upon what Alejandra Restrepo has commented as the feminist epistemology, that says that the patriarchal, androcentric, sexist, and misogynist science has permeated the scientific knowledge. So when we're trying to proceed to apply this knowledge, well, we also have these difficulties. And as Evelyn Fox Keller told us, the science is always subjective because it's only including the perspective of 50% of the population. Well, this also goes for technology, not only science, and hence for intellectual property in general. So I concur with Sandra Harding that says that women and men cannot understand or explain the world we live in or the real choices we have as long as the sciences describe and explain the world primarily for the perspective of the lives of dominant groups, excluding minorities or underrepresented groups. So this is also my framework. So if we include in intellectual products opportunities for diversity, for inclusion, we're going to find better solutions for our world. And some additional insights in these minutes should be, I could mention that we have a gender pipeline for intellectual property. For instance, in Mexico, even though we have 126 million people, and the women that study up higher level studies goes around 8 million, and who can finish their careers are like 87,000. The women that can in potential have an invention are like 45,000. The annual average of inventions that the National Institute of Industrial Property reports is 1,000. So this kind of pipeline I know that it also happens in other countries, and that's why I am also presenting it as an insight. But where can we find, or where, as like when we are looking for our background, where we do research, we know that we can go for books and we can go for journals. But in the case of registration of industrial property, we can look at several places like the WIPO page or SpaceNet that has an European open database from all countries, not only from Europe, or Google Patents, or your own country database. And you have to look for your corresponding offices. So these are the links to what where I like to work. I like to look for WIPO and SpaceNet and Google Patents. And in Mexico, it's called SIGA, where you can find what is patented here in Mexico. But well, I want to emphasize that that the different classifications can go from human necessities, transport, chemistry, textiles. I mean, it's not only, and human necessities is huge. So it's not only one area, as one of the panelists said about STEM areas. It has to do with several areas. So I would ask you to look for your keywords for author name, just as you look for when you're looking at research, documental research, and identify the type of industrial properties, a sub area, your operators, and your country offices. Now that I was preparing this lecture and I looked for the participants, I found that they were from Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Nicaragua, Peru, Philippines, South Africa, and India, Uruguay. In all of these countries, you can find your local or your country office and identify what has been registered, because we can't register double features, I mean. But you can also learn to look for this information. And there is a difference when we have gendered innovations, so gendered aspects, because, for instance, there have been changes in how we approach the problem of cardiac arrests in women, depending from men. It's different. We don't have the same symptoms, but also, for instance, in this report, where for psychological treatment, it's also different. It must be different for men and for women. Or looking at seed turtle populations, they're also different, the female and the male behavior. So it's very, very important to have this information and look with these kind of glasses. Recently, Europe published the second volume of Gendered Innovation and How Inclusive Analysis Contributes to Research and Innovation. So it's for copyright and also for technological developments that can be registered and as industrial property. So it's very interesting to learn about what we can achieve when we change our glasses and we look with more equity and inclusive and diversity lenses. And just to close, to listen to your questions, well, we can contribute as authors and copyrights, or as inventors, designers at different stages, to contribute to our regions, countries, and worldwide, and leading towards entrepreneurship. It's important to have an idea to build up, but we need to register. So there's also other policies which have been addressed and must be addressed to incorporate features like the intersectionality, because it's different when we are competing for seed money in an entrepreneurship of women, or another kind of intersectionality issue. The legal arrangements, who can register, and depending on the countries, and as always, there are additional working hours. So this is something that must be addressed. Sorry, and well, as I was telling you, I really think that we could include this kind of information in the curricula, but also in other workshops to increase Latin America's participation and acknowledge what we already have maybe and we have developed, but we haven't registered. So we need to build specific tools, procedures, as I mentioned, to promote equity, diversity, and inclusion when building intellectual property for national and international solutions, and improve the policies for industrial property management, for communities, for underrepresented, for specific needs. And this is a challenge that's not only for a single area or a single discipline, it's for everyone. So that's why I think that it's a great opportunity for everyone. And well, with this, I would finish and tell you that we can contribute, increasing diversity and inclusion. And it's also an alternative for professional development for the new generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lorena. So, do you have a question, Mayra? Okay.
Hi, Lorena, thank you. I have two comments. First one, in fact, you can register and get the industrial property of plant varieties. It is the obtentor title. And the second thing is, in Mexico, the problem of patents, at least in biotechnology, is not only a matter of women, because if you check the patents, about more than 95% of the patents in biotechnology are from persons that aren't Mexicans, that come from different countries, China, the States, Europe, and so forth. And it is the same with the titles of obtentor titles of vegetal varieties. What do you think about?
That's an additional issue. I think you're very, I concur, because once we register in a country, in a given country, you don't have to be a native of the country. So because all these the first world countries are more ahead of us, then they register in other countries like Mexico, for instance, because they want to commercialize. So that's why I think that we need to encourage the new generations, and together with everyone, to collaborate and increase the patents from the natives of the country. So we can also defend and have legal commercialization and also a better understanding. So yes, I agree that it's also another issue. How many patents are for Mexicans, women or men, but it's smaller than, and this happens in developing countries, in all developing countries.
Thank you. Some other question?
Lorena, I have a question. Is there an office, a special office in your university to support your applications or to teach you how to apply or do the paperwork, something like that?
Yes, there's a patent office in the university. Not all Mexican universities have this kind of office. I think it's been like for 10 or 15 years that it's been that it was created. But I would encourage everyone to look at their country's offices, because most of them have videos or short courses where we can learn about special aspects. And in any case, well, please feel free to write to me, and I can also give you some information of what INIMPI, it's in Spanish, but you can also learn about it, and in WIPO, in the International, the World Intellectual Property Organization also. So, but it is needed in every institution to have persons that can help us. In the case of my university and the government of my state, there's additional support, because once you ask for what would be like your documental research when you're making a paper, in the case of the industrial property, you have to do a technical review. And this can be also done by your country's office and paid by your university. And then the government can reimburse this, the payment, because it's trying to promote more inventions by Mexican persons, so for Mexican nationals. But I said more than your question, but I forgot to include it in the talk. Thank you.
Lorena, felicitaciones por tu ponencia. Bien, tengo tres aspectos o tres reflexiones a partir también de poder escucharte. En mi caso, yo soy educadora e inventora, y haciendo un preámbulo, yo aprendí a desarrollar patentes con colegas de ingeniería. Actualmente yo desarrollo las patentes en un equipo multidisciplinario, como también lo puedo hacer sola. Y es importante también el rol que cumple la universidad, porque fue la universidad la que brindó talleres y capacitaciones que inicialmente estaban destinadas a los ingeniería, a los de carreras de STEAM, pero ahora en realidad lo trasladaron y cualquiera se puede presentar a recibir estas capacitaciones o talleres. Incluso Indecopi tiene un programa que se llama Patenta, que es un apoyo al inventor para poder desarrollar patentes, ¿no? En el caso, por ejemplo, de México, entiendo que INPI debe hacer lo mismo, brindar esos talleres o capacitaciones gratuitas para que se pueda replicar, en este caso, puedan desarrollar su informe técnico o poder mejorarlo. Mi pregunta, mi reflexión va, a partir de estos espacios, sí sería importante armar una red de inventoras en LATAM, en Latinoamérica, y es una idea que yo estaba considerando con el equipo que yo tengo en Perú. Nosotros hemos creado una asociación latinoamericana de docentes inventores, que ya esto va a salir en menos de un mes este año. Va a comenzar primero en Perú. Lo que queremos es acortar la brecha de género y capacitar a docentes y estudiantes para desarrollar patentes. ¿Por qué? Porque hay desconocimiento en educación. En realidad, cualquier persona puede patentar, pero queremos comenzar primero con las escuelas. Eso le quería compartir. Y bueno, es importante hacer esa conexión con otros partners, inventores, inventoras en tu caso. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to listen about what you're doing in Peru. I think it's fabulous, and I agree that networks will be what can evolve and close the gender gap, and also all other kinds of gaps. The institutional efforts in my university started like 20 years ago. No, like 15 years ago. And they started thinking about not patents, but utility models. And the problem was that it kind of gave into a bad circle, because it wasn't promoting all the areas. So I think that, and I completely agree that all the areas, all disciplines can participate and can contribute to solve this kind of gender gap. And well, I'm open to collaboration. Please contact me, because it's whatever I can mention or can contribute, I will be very happy to do it. And INPI, actually, the videos are open. You can from any country, you can link yourself to INPI and look at the videos that can tell you more about writing. It's not all the exercise, but just to get a bit of a start and to promote more workshops. In this case, well, this is a talk, but I would be happy to organize with other colleagues also a workshop for for Latin America. Thank you.
Okay, so one last question.
Sorry, I'm very tired, I will speak Spanish. El objetivo de la propiedad industrial es que establezcas un monopolio, que nadie pueda utilizar lo que tú registraste. Y mi pregunta es, en el caso de las patentes, por ejemplo, de tu universidad, ¿qué porcentaje de esas patentes han sido licenciadas? Y si es importante para las universidades tener un gran número de patentes sin licenciarlas.
It is still a problem because they're not, I think that they're like 10% of all the patents have been licensed or commercialized because we're still missing a link towards to transfer this into industrial property. This is a very important step, and I think that it's not an easy one. And if we integrate the gap, the gender gap, it's also more difficult because most of the patents have been submitted by men, not women. So I think that it's still work in progress, but I do think that we need to, that's why I was also talking about the policies that have to change. So we can also include important features that can promote the transfer of knowledge to other enterprises. But the university does not make that the commercialization, and it looks for some agreements, but it's, as I told you, it's like less than 10% of the patents have been licensed.
Okay,
so it still is another difficulty.
Okay, let's thank Lorena again. And I think that now we are going to invite the creators of the equation, is that right, for gender, to write it on the blackboard? Oh, to present? Okay, to present, good. But is it on this? Eles vão falar, vocês podem falar, é aqui. And we are going to close very soon the whole activity.
Yeah. Oh. Thank you.
You need your computer?
No, I just have to. Yeah. I just write like an equation. Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Silas. In the first day on Monday, Professor Alba asked us to write an equation for like this workshop for this conference. So we had to write an equation for like inclusive and diversity. And the theme was to write something that could relate like gender and race and how we could like make a model for the gap for gender and race. Just so excited here. So we were discussing about another part of physics that is condensed matter physics. And in this area, there is something called band structure, where you can have like, if you know anything about like electronics, you may know that there is like the conduction band, where like electrons conduct electricity, and the valence band, which is like field. But in some materials, you can have like a closed thing, so it's kind of like the same thing. And you can say that it's a gap, and you close the gap between one thing and another. So we were trying to find some way to describe this as an equation. So, okay. So there is an equation for this kind of models, for this kinds of systems, and we tried to use one of them to make it a model. So if you could write it, I think it's. Oh, okay. Okay. Faz. Ok. Tá. Tem, não. Não. Ok. Ah. Então, sorry. Estamos com problemas técnicos. A gente podia só escrever, porque não é nada ainda. Posso. Acho que... Ok, ok. Então, acho que é melhor escrever mesmo. Sure, yeah.
Si es solo de USD es rápido ahora, es só entrar y...
Ah, ok.
Mutaste o áudio do computador?
Sim. Uhum.
Pronto.
Aqui já estava...
Isso aí.
Tá.
Agora eu vou colocar você como co-host para você.
Okay, so we were trying to create an equity equation. So as a basis, we used the Schrodinger equation, which is probably the most famous equation from quantum mechanics. We're not going to explain it, but basically it says like what is the energy from a quantum system or a quantum state. And there's like this relationship with the valence and the conduction band, and we find a gap between them. So we're trying to create an equation based on the Schrodinger equation. Okay, thank you. So we use this thing called like a Hubbard model, which is like tiny band. Anyways, it's not important. So to find equity in our society, we have to find an historical operator. So we have to find something that describes like historical changes, so that in our space or our social space, we can apply our operator to change our social state and return an observable response, which would be like a historical change. So we want exactly the historical operator that can close the gender gap or the race gap, like make things more equitable. So let's define two pairs of parameters. The first one is this V pairs. So there's like this VG and VR, which are like the inclusion and diversity values. G stands for gender and R stands for race. And the P and the PR, which Maffei said that would be like the prejudice. So like the gender prejudice and the race prejudice. So our equation would be like this one. You can see like there is a negative here, so it's something that makes things more equitable. And there's the positive here, which make things less equitable. And you have like the system. The first term, you have like the VG and the VR, which is the inclusion diversity values for gender and race. And you also have this square root, which makes like the intersections. So we have like an interaction with gender and race for like Black women, for example. And there's this S, so it's like the space where changes happen. You have like the the construction discussions and the destruction structures discussions. So things change like in a positive or negative way, but they're changing. And you also have the second term, which is the bad term, where you have like the prejudice for gender, prejudice for race, and the interactions between those two, which is the square root. And you also have like this sum. N stands for like a density. So you have like the positive, like the up arrow and the down arrow. The up arrow would be like the spin up, but in this case, it's people who want the change to happen, and the down spin would be like the people who don't want this change to happen. And yeah, that's the equation. And in our current stage, we have a gap in our society, a gender gap and a race gap, and also like things between. But we want to find the exactly historical operator that will make our system without a gap, and so that we close the gap between like genders and race. And that's what we were trying to find. Thank you.
So now it's time to start closing, and we are going to give some prizes. First, to the creators of this Hamiltonian to reduce the gender gap. Oh, Mayra.